Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The spa and spa life, the SPA, is for seek power always, that power within you to do your greater work in the world. I am so thrilled to introduce to you my special guest today, Lisa Cherney. Talk about juicy. That comes in her background, but that just weaves into everything that she does. She's known as the Queen of Clarity and the host now of the groundbreaking, confession-based Get Effin' Real podcast and the creator of the 12 GFR Commandments, which we will be talking about here. I'm giving you a quick little glance for those who are visual and looking. I have a copy of them here in front of me. I use them. It's an amazing tool, and we'll be jumping into that. Now, I'm going to look at some of the specific things that Lisa has been up to. You know, particularly in 2014, she blew up her business, right? After 15 years in business, Lisa Cherney, who had a 7-figure successful business, dismantled it. And she was known as the juicy marketing expert. And she just decided that wasn't working for her and she needed to do something different. So there's 3 different things I really want to focus on, and we're going to get deeper into the conversation here today. And one that Lisa learned, that just because something is successful and people like it, it doesn't mean that you have to keep doing it. So we're going to be jumping into that. I mean, that's like a mind blower right there. And then second, she realized she had a low tolerance for not being happy. Listeners, what is your tolerance for being happy? And are you actually doing something about it? And she not only just says it, but she does it, because she also transitioned out of companies like AT&T and Lipton at 28 because that wasn't fulfilling her. Are you moving through the things as you're moving in your life, in your business, and what you're up to? And then finally, she knows what her mission is. How many of you are searching for what it is? It can pivot, it can change, but her mission is to help soulful entrepreneurs, GFR, right? So that they can get out of their own way, help more people, and make more money. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Woo woo!
This is so exciting. I've been having so much fun, not only being on your podcast, your show, but your community that you have, really, it's like this grassroots effort where people are just sharing what's real for them. What made you shift into like this successful business? Let's just start there, and really stepping into this juicy new step of getting effing real.
Yes. Well, for many years, I was a mentor to entrepreneurs, mission-driven entrepreneurs, and I focused mostly on marketing and sales. And, where I first got started, what inspired to even have my own business, was meeting awesome people and seeing that the person that I met wasn't the person that was in their marketing. And I was like, okay, now I need to figure out a way to help them, like be authentic in their marketing so they can attract what they wanted. And this was like before The Secret was out, and, before there was a lot of conscious talk in businesses. But that's what I was clear on. If they didn't know what was great about them, they couldn't own that, then they weren't going to be able to put it in their marketing. They weren't going to track what I wanted. And so that was the beginning of my entrepreneur path. Now, if you fast forward now to the current day, and maybe even like a year ago when I really started birthing this whole thing, what I realized is that most of my support with mentors, particularly those that are making a leap to 6 or making a leap to 7, was how to help them get out of their own way, identifying where they were in their own way, and then really dismantling that, really looking at that, and then seeing how that translated into them meeting their goals, right? And right. And it was the most fun part for me. And so when I was really asking, okay, what's next, right? I had dismantled this, significant business. I had went into a partnership where I was doing my mastery, but I wasn't under my own sort of, heading, but it was great. And I really got to work and incubate. And then I realized, Diane, it's like, okay, no, yes, I'm still a marketing and selling expert and scaling expert and all those good things. And the people that I love to most work with and that I want to support with the show are the people that are like, okay, great, I have this vision. I know what I want to do, but I ain't doing it. I know I'm getting in my own way and I need to figure out why. And so that's where I'm focusing now.
Oh, God, this is so great. I have so many questions around this. And, one of the main things is that we hear this, right? We hear get out of your own way. It's something that's like almost like cliched and thrown out there. But I think for a lot of people, what the F does that mean? Right? How is it that you can hear the words okay, I'm in my own way, but what does that look like? And especially when people are looking at their business, they may be thinking of there's business strategies or things that are happening. Do you find that it's something in people's business or the way they're doing business, or do you feel it's more of a mindset or who they're being, or, what do you feel is a big contributing factor to people getting in their own way?
It's such a good question. And it was one that I was really asking myself quite a bit. It was how do I define this for people? How do I help them to kind of do some kind of assessment to see where am I getting in my own way? What are the weak links for me? And so I was on a plane to Vancouver and to a retreat. Sometimes when we're on an airplane, there's airplane mode is magical, it's no distractions or anything happening. And I realized through some journaling and through some other things that I was looking at that there are actually 12 ways that the mission-driven, mission-inspired, heart-centered, y'all know who you are, right? Those us kinds of people, that there's about 12 ways that we get in our way. And it really came from my 20 years of mentoring entrepreneurs, and not just mentoring them for a couple months. Most of the time when I mentor people, it's over a year or 2 or 3. And so I got to see patterns, and I got to see, I got to see where they hit, different places that were stretching them inside and out. And so I birthed these 12 GFR Commandments, and I get to flash them on the screen and let everybody know how they can get their own copy. But it's really, it's really the most succinct. It's like a roadmap for getting real. And so when I do these interviews, it's always okay, which commandment are we going to talk about? Because it's it's never not a commandment. It's even when I'm not talking about the commandments, I'm oh my gosh, that's just commandment number 6. And so,
right.
So one of the things that we could talk about, has to do with how a mission-based or inspired entrepreneur does communicate about what they do and where they get in their way around that. So, and we could talk about that, or we could talk about your favorite commandment, or however you want.
Well, let's start with that one, because I know we're going to jump into, I do have a couple in mind, but why don't you jump in with that one? So are you referring to 9?
I am referring to, I'm referring to 3, actually. This is,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this one before when it comes to, really it's marketing, but for me, it's never just been about marketing, right? It isn't. Marketing is an inside out approach. If you make it what do they want? What do they want me to say? What's trendy? If you do that, you're not going to attract what you want, right? You can't start with that external. So it's always been an internal process for me,
right?
Even in all my courses around marketing. So commandment number 3, there's a commandment, and then there's a confession question, right? So the confession question is that's where it's okay, if you read the commandment and you're this one might be one for me, then you read the confession question. So the commandment is, don't worry about being normal, proper, or polite. People read it sometimes, Diane, they're well, I don't want to be rude. It's we're not talking about you being rude. We're talking about you not worrying so much about that, right? And so here's the confession question, which really gets at the heart of why this is such an issue for the mission-driven entrepreneur. Where am I not speaking my truth? Right? So it's just, obviously this is in our life, where am I not speaking my truth? For sure. Right. Could just really get to the heart of things. When it comes to marketing, the biggest mistake that I see the mission-driven entrepreneur making is that they're dimming the fire that they have for what they're doing, because they're saying what they think people want to hear. Right? So where are you doing that? Where are you not speaking your truth in your marketing? In fact, one of the most fun questions to ask yourself, if this is resonating with you, is if I wasn't worrying about what people thought, or I wasn't really worrying about turning anyone off, right? What would I say? Like, what are those things that you say when you're super passionate and you're on your soapbox about your thing and you're kind of unedited and unfettered? Like, what are those things that you say? And it's like, you know what? Put that in your marketing. Like, don't edit yourself. Don't try to be general, because then you're actually not attracting the people that you most really want to help. When you try to, I used to say, when you try to talk to everybody, you're actually talking to nobody. And that there's a lot of truth to that. So
right.
Yeah, that's
well, and how I love the fact that, saying what your truth is, and, how do you bridge, because a lot of times the truth that people are trying to, it's almost like they're being a different person in their business than who they're being in your life. And you talk a lot about how, who you are, it's very personal to be a mission-driven entrepreneur. And so how is it that, if you're speaking your truth, do you blend together that personal and business? And, because some people feel like, oh, I don't want people to know certain aspects of myself. And, it's that, how authentic are we being, and where are the lines and the boundaries, and how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's such a good question. If I was just speaking to any audience, like business owners or something, then I would answer this very differently, but that's not who we're speaking to, right? Like your audience, they're about seeking power always. Like your audience is about living a certain lifestyle. And so what I'd say about that is that the more you are able to integrate, I from what I've seen, the closer you are actually to your ultimate mission. So here's an example. One of the things that a lot of people struggle with is, I'm spiritual, but I'm afraid to say that in my marketing, right? I'm afraid that I'm going to turn somebody off if I say, that, that I believe that everything happens for a reason, and I really help my clients really, find peace and, stand in their truth, as an example, right? So instead, they don't say anything like that in their marketing. They don't really, dabble in the spiritual part. And they just say, like, I help people feel more powerful. So that means that then when you go to work with somebody or they're attracted to you, now you're feeling like, oh, I got a little bit of a secret. Like, I don't really know if they, like, I got to keep hiding that part. It's kind of like dating, Diane, right? It's like, it's just like that. It's like, right. You're dating and you like love hiking and you want to be outside, but your partner's like, oh, let's go to a racetrack, and you're like, okay, like I want this person to like me, so let me hide that myself. Well, we do this in our marketing all the time.
What a great analogy.
Right? It's so true. And so like the person gets attracted to you, and now you're feeling like you still can't be yourself, even though they now maybe that your client, because you're afraid that you hid part, right? So and ultimately, very often, those parts of ourselves are actually meant to feed into our purpose. Like, you're meant to own that spiritual part of yourself as a way to help your clients. And so if you're hiding it, it dims your light. It has you be a little bit off course. A little bit off course. And so a lot of times when I get to work with people over a long period of time, I'm just helping them like course correct. All along the way, and as we push ourselves to have more significance, and I was going to say more success, and it's not always that monetary success, but it's like, I want to have more impact. I want to like get out there in a bigger way. And as we push ourselves to feed that part of ourselves, those incongruencies, those cracks become like Grand Canyon.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'd like to just magnify this for our listeners right now, because I'm thinking that whether they've actually verbalized it yet or not, this has probably triggered something. Like, there's that certain aspect of yourself that you're not sharing with other people. Like, if you're driving, pull over, right? Just pull over and take a minute and just think about this, or even just put this on pause right now. And where's this showing up for you in your life? Like, what's a part of you that you're not sharing with other people? What do you hesitate and you're about to tell somebody, but you don't, right? Or that there's a part of you and you don't share that, right? I mean, excuse me, I'm getting a little choked up myself about this. So, because the kind of conversations that we're having, those parts that we hold back on ourselves, we're robbing people of really knowing who we are. And part of that journey may be the exact part of us that they actually needed to hear. Right.
Exactly.
So I love that you're just putting this out there for people to really look at. And I know that using the commandments is a way that you're designing your life in ways that you're, helping your clients do that. I mean, I find myself, referring to this tool, all the time. Like if something's up for me, I'm like, okay, which one is it? Right. And where is that? And so you guys will get as part of the gift here at the end. So you want to stick around, that we're going to give you the link so you can get your own copy of this, because this is definitely a navigational tool. It's your own GPS for, GFR. And, let's look at a couple others here. I think this is so fun to kind of bounce these back and forth of how to use these so that when you guys have them yourself, you'll be able to really look at that. So actually because I want to go into commandment number 10, right?
Okay.
And before I tell them what that is, one of the things that we look at this here on the show is we look at, there's times that we give our power away and there's times that we stand in it. And there's some things that, make us feel disempowered. So I'd love for you to kind of share about, when you realized that your 7-figure business was not serving you. What were some of the things that were coming up for you? What was some of the personal struggle around that? And then how did you actually move through that and triumph?
Yeah, such a great question. And of course, it's very reflective of the mission of my podcast, the Get Effin' Real show, because like Diane, who was a recent guest, everyone that comes on has had some kind of, we call them wormhole, GFR wormhole, some kind of like crazy struggle, like doesn't make sense to their life, like their expertise isn't working, the mentors aren't working, it's embarrassing because it's like related to so everyone on the show has had this sort of arc of their story where there's struggle and then something right, and then something new. They come out the wormhole, right? Just like in the sci-fi movies, and they're into the future and they don't know where they are, and and it soon all makes sense. So every story that we have on the show is like that. And so my own personal story is very similar in that I thought like, I want to build my empire. I want to have my, my own events and my own year-long program, and, and I love speaking and being on stage, and really teaching is what I really love. And so I created it around that. And I built it up. I got the 7 figures. I got the T-shirt. I got the trophy, my 7-figure trophy, and which felt really good because I knew that the people that I wanted to help wanted that. So it was like, oh, great, I got that credential. And then we're sort of cruising along, and I'm like, I'm not having as much fun as I would like, and I was holding the energy. This is how I felt. It's like I was holding the energy for this like huge thing, hundreds of people in programs and, team of coaches, all this stuff. And for me, I realized that the creation of it, like the idea of it and the creating of it and the building it, that's where my juice was. And then once it was created, I didn't have as much juice for it. And in my experience, when a business gets to 7 figures, that actually isn't in the model that I was in. That's actually not super sustainable. Like there needs to be a bump up in the top line, because the expenses get to be at a critical mass. And so I knew what I needed to do, right? I mentored people with this. I knew what I needed to do, and none of it sounded fun, Diane. I didn't want to do any of it. I didn't want to do the launches, and I didn't want to get more butts in seats, and I just didn't want to do any of it. That was a problem too, because there was an integrity thing. It's like, okay, my brand was 6 figures on your terms, full-time prosperity, part-time hours. It's like, okay, I'm obviously teaching, I'm helping people create a business that they love, right? That fits their lifestyle. And I was actually only working part-time, but I had a team that was built up. So my expenses were at a critical level that allowed me that lifestyle. And like I said, I would have needed to get more volume in, and none of that felt fun. So I definitely felt out of integrity. And I think that really is a struggle for the mission-driven entrepreneur, the heart-centered, however you want to say it. Like, I think that incongruency, when you start feeling like I'm teaching healing and I'm not feeling healed, or I'm teaching right relationships and I'm not in the right relationship, whatever that your core thing is that you believe and that you're struggling with, I know for sure now that is the divine design to help you birth your next level, and there's a purpose for it.
Right.
And so I kind of knew that was happening. And so that's what actually helped me. It inspired me. And that's what I'm hoping the show does, is inspires people that are in that struggle kind of know, okay, this is part of it. I just need to walk this out. This is actually part of it.
Right. Absolutely. And, I just want to highlight this here for our listeners as well, is that, just because you've built this big thing, it can be really challenging. I can only imagine the mind chatter of like, this is the thing that I set up to do, and this was the path and the long-term, the plan, right? And when you're in it, and especially when you have the level of success that you had in it, to blow that up and to look about doing something else is such a challenging kind of crossroads to be at, talk about get effing real with yourself of like, I enjoyed up to this point, met great people, all of these things, but it doesn't make me happy to do what it takes to continue this path and to keep doing this type thing. And so I'd love to look at like, so how are you utilizing, this is a great example where you can now use, the commandments. So for 10, just for our listeners who don't have this in front of them yet, where it's know that this struggle, stress, pain prevented you with prevented with your experience has enormous monetary value. In fact, let me say that again. I'm like, I'm trying to squint at this here. So it's so funny. So talk about being real. Okay. I'm squinting here. I should have printed this out bigger for myself, but just know that whatever that struggle or pain or whatever is showing up for you, right, that it prevented you with your expertise, and it has enormous monetary value. May not be reading this perfectly right, but one of the things that we're looking at is, where are you not coming with your value? Like, what is it costing you? Like, what would it be costing you if you would have continued on the path of doing something that's no longer inspiring you, right? Yes. So how would you use this commandment? And did you use it at the time, or was this kind of like an after the fact that you're now using it?
Yeah. The confession question that goes with it is, where am I not owning my value, and what is it costing me? And for me, where this shows up for the people that I've been coaching for 20 years is that part of where they're feeling incongruent in their business and where they're feeling stuck is they're actually not really standing in, I help people find their next best career. And I know that without me, it's going to take like twice as long, and they're not going to, get a job that's, the one that they want. And so that has a lot of value, or fill in the blank. Like, I'm helping people get clear and create more connection with their kids. And, like, without me, they may be on their deathbed having like major regrets about, their relationship with their kids. Like it's the idea is that when we don't own the struggle that we prevent, we are not owning the value of our services, of our expertise. Right. And so that diminishes, like that obviously slows our growth. Like all of these, every single commandment slows growth. Like if you look at the top of the commandments, it says, the more you get fucking real, the more you get effing real, the more impact and money you will make. Right. So we now know, like, we know this, like we kind of all know this before I read that thing. Like we know, like if we're dimming our light in the businesses that we're in, if we're dimming our light, we're not going to get where we want to go. And it's going to be a more arduous process. It's right. So that's our goal here. And so for me, how that applied to like what my experience was that, I think that I probably could have raised my prices, right? That's one of the things businesses can do, right? They can bring in more volume, or they could raise their prices. And I wasn't feeling connection with that at the time. And that probably would have made a bigger difference. I don't know that I was meant to keep, just to hold on to that business. But I think that I wish I had this summary of the GFR Commandments. I wish I had that summary because, it is a roadmap, and I would have been able to check off the boxes, and I would have been able to say, okay, what really is the thing that's, incongruent for me right now?
Right. Right. I love that. Also, I'm curious about, we were sharing like, Bella's 13, right? And, there's certain things with our children at certain ages and being present for them. And, there's certain things that you want to experience in your own life and being able to align some of those things with like where you are right now, like being more spontaneous. Like, how is it that you, kind of, and this kind of weaves a little bit in with like, commandment number 12 about where are areas that you feel like you're holding yourself back, right? Because it's not just about in our business, but in our life. How are you getting congruent for some of these areas that you may be holding yourself back personally and being able to be fully in integrity of what you want in your life?
So you're asking me personally, like where am
Yeah.
I? Yeah. Yeah, and it's really juicy because one of the major ways that this shows up, especially when we're looking at, find where you are holding yourself back and do whatever it takes to get out of your own way. That's number 12. Where am I holding myself back is the confession question. And for me, I had a major opening in my relationship, and I think that it's a really, really juicy place to look for many, many people. Is your primary domestic relationship, however, whatever label you put on it, your husband or your wife, your partner, whatever that looks like for you, but the person that's sort of like your anchor person, is it the right person? Is it the right relationship? Has the relationship grown with you? Does it need to be up-leveled in a major way in order to meet you where you're at? I'm not necessarily talking about letting go of the relationship, but, I'm working with somebody right now and they've been together a really long time. And this person is like almost not letting my client grow. Like he is like really ready to like get out and like create something at a new level. And his partner is not used to seeing him that way. Mm. Right. And so now the question is, okay, can the relationship be transformed in order to support you where you want to go? So I think it's a juicy thing to look at. And for myself, my relationship, I'm married almost 25 years. And at year 18, my husband and I looked at each other and were like, okay, is there some things we want to experience that the monogamy construct is inhibiting, right? And we just decided to take a fresh look at it. We got married when we were like 23 years old, It's like, so have we changed? Yeah. And so, and that's the kind of questioning that I really love to give people permission to do, not just in the relationship, but everywhere, what are the things that we just assume and we just take as default, and that we just, well, I have to have a relationship with my mother, even though every time I talk to my mother, I'm depressed for weeks later, or she completely derails me or whatever, but it's my mother. Well, I don't know. Do you need to have a relationship with your mother if she completely sucks the life out of you every time you talk with her and reminds you of the little kid that, whatever, fill in the blank for you around relationships. So it's a juicy place to look.
Well, one of the things I so appreciate about you is that, that's what I love about this, get effing real, is like, what is real? I mean, these are some of the deep conversations that, people aren't going to hear on a lot of different podcasts, right? They're not going to have, at a party or even with some of their closest friends. And part of having some conversations with you, what really led me to believe is that, or to experience, is to be at places and how much do we really know the people around us? Like, what do we know about them? Like, do people kind of hold to their chest and not really share the deepest parts of themselves out of fear of being judged or, some sort of, just not really accepting who you are. And in fact, I had a woman I interviewed earlier today, and she was talking about how she recently realized that she identified more with the LBG, type community. And she had this fear about connecting with her parents and had this whole letter that she had written to them and having support. And, she ended up being one of the people that her parents was very supportive of her. But she was sharing that a lot of people, when they share who they are, that there isn't some of that support. So who are we surrounding ourselves with? Are we actually able to be authentic? And it's one of the things I really appreciate about the community that you've created is that you are really, being a cheerleader for people to be real, to really share that aspect about themselves that, it may be shocking, or it may be like, I can't believe she had this part in her life. And, it was a challenge for me even to share when I was on your show, to share aspects of myself that I hadn't shared before, because I looked at, there's a certain perception as a police officer. And if you're in a disempowering relationship, it's like, of all people, wouldn't you know better? And just all the things that can come up around that. But by me sharing that conversation, it gives permission for other people to look at where are some of the things where we're not speaking up for ourselves and we're not speaking our truth. And I just want to applaud what you're doing, and just how you're so open around that. And what are you finding, because the community is relatively new, what are some of the trends, just like with, you had the 12 commandments that came out of years of you doing your work. What are you starting to see unfold as people are sharing the deeper parts of themselves?
Such a great question. First, I really want to acknowledge your episode of the GFR show was so powerful, and you you're a living example of the power of confession, right? And how permission giving it really is. So if you all haven't listened to her episode on the show, we'll link in the show notes, or however you do that, for sure, because it's so powerful. And thank you for thank you for being you, and thank you for your willingness to share. And I know for sure it's absolutely, a big step on your path to wherever you're going in the future. So the community you're referring to, we call the GFR Squad. And I knew that when I wanted to birth the show that I wanted there to be a community around it, because it just creates conversation. There's the stories of our guests, and then those things inspire us, and then we're questioning things in our lives. We have these own ha-has, we call them GFR moments, and then we have these cool 12 commandments, and okay, we need to have a place where people can come and talk about this stuff, and talk about the guests, and talk about what's going on in their life. And so it is fairly new. It's a month or two old at this point. And it's fascinating to see how it's, you have ideas, but then, how it's taking on, right, it has a life of its own. And so what are the things that we're seeing? What are the patterns? I think that it's a great question. I'm checking in. One of the benefits of the GFR Squad is what we're calling a confession call. So once a month we get together on Zoom, and I have a format, and people get a chance to confess things, GFR moments they've had, or just, things, we call it our GFR bio, the things about us that are not the credentials and all the shit. I always share I'm lazy, and it inspires me to be innovative, I don't cook, but, I have, Trader Joe's stock, these things about us that, we used to be embarrassed about, but, so I even say to people well, what did you used to be embarrassed about that you want to say now? And so it's really amazing what people are sharing. And so there's one thing that's coming to me. It's a little heavy, but I'm just going to trust my intuition. So one of the things that a lot of people are talking about are moments in their life where they considered ending their life. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that I have personally experienced to that degree. So it really wasn't as much in my awareness. And it is phenomenal when one person shares this, how many others share it, and how common a bottom it is for people to hit. Where we just had a guest, I can't wait to air the episode where that for him lying on his back and contemplating his exit, he calls it, that was his GFR moment right there. He's that's not me. Who is even thinking these thoughts? This is freaking insane. If I'm actually at that point, okay, this is my wake up call. Right. So it's that's a pretty common thing. And just to have a community where people can say, yep, I've had one of those moments. And you know what, it was really so critical on my path to where I am now. And so, yeah, that's the thing that came to me to share. I mean, there's a lot of fun things that people are confessing, and people are being real and talking about transitions in relationships and careers and, you know, spouses and kids. And for the mission-driven entrepreneur, it's all like our life is our mission. There is no separation. And I think that too, just acknowledging that for people is such a relief. Like,
right.
Oh, you mean if my coming home to my husband and not being able to celebrate with him about what I did that day, like, that's significant. That is something I need to look at. That is something I need to acknowledge. And like, oh, there's a place now that I can come to, and I could say that, and I could start to transform that. So yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I just think it is powerful. Absolutely. And I'm really, you know, I'm seeing this as, you know, hopefully a new trend of people being more comfortable to share some of these aspects of their life, because, you know, I've noticed as well, just when people will share things in the group, and it was just like, I know, like, even a week prior, they would have never shared that. Like, there wouldn't have been a safe space for that. And I think what happens for, you know, not just entrepreneurs, but just people in general, you know, where, you know, thoughts come up, right? And they're not always empowering thoughts. And so, you know, sometimes if we don't have a place to actually share those, and it's not feel safe to do that, those things get stuffed, and they actually do start impairing the fabric of what the bigger things that we are actually here to do. So really being able to have these reflective moments, and part of that, you know, getting real, you know, as well for myself, is that, you know I need to spend some more time just sitting with what's real for me. Like, what is the new iteration of what I'm up to and what I'm doing, and that's okay. Like, I don't have to know that because I started a certain way in life and business that I have to know exactly what that looks like. And I think that there are many people that go through that and have done things like you, where they've built, you know, successful things. And it's like, well, what happens if that blows up? Like, what does that even look like? And so I so appreciate this tool that you've created here. And I think it would be great for us to share, like, how people can stay in contact with you and how they can get their hands on this GFR Commandments.
All right, let's do it. So gfr.life/12C. That's how you get your hands on the commandments, 12C for 12 commandments. And it comes in this pretty, you know, like roadmap. And it's for sure do that. Like, you know, step one, get your copy of the GFR Commandments. And then step two would be to check out the show. And the obviously Diane's episode is fabulous, and you go to gfr.life/episodes, get all of the episodes, including Diane's. And also, then you could check out the squad. You know, you know, it's funny because, Diane, I thought the squad was for people that listened to the show and then wanted a GFR. And now the squad members are telling me, oh no, like, we listened to it, but, you know, like, not all of us like listen to every episode, but we're really here for the squad, and we want to, you know, we want to confess, and we want to move forward with our missions. And so, so listening to the show is not a requirement of being in the squad. And it's this really crazy, ridiculous low investment to get started in it. So you could just check that out also on that gfr.life/squad. It's, you know, all the info's there, but make sure you grab your commandments, because I think it's like a way to dabble in what we're saying. And of course, it'll illuminate a lot of what we talked about. You know, the other commandment that I think is really great is have faith in yourself and your mission. And what would you do differently if you had faith in yourself and in your mission? And that's super revealing. It's like, oh my God, what would I do if I really actually 100% had faith, knew it would be a success? What would I be doing? And that way you see the gap between where you are and really ultimately where you want to be. And how long do you want to be in that place that's not congruent?
So great questions. I love them so much. I didn't realize how much I actually use this tool. I have it. Hey y'all, I have it in a laminated thing that's like next to me all the time, because it's such a great reference. I use it for myself and my clients, and, you know, even discussion with my family. There's things that come up because I realize I want to have some deeper conversations, even with my family. Like, there's certain things, like, do you really know the people who are closest to you? And this is such a great tool to be able to have with that. And actually, speaking of environments, one of the things I like to ask my guests is that I believe environments have such an impact in how we experience our life. And so one of the things I like to ask is that, you have a different experience in your bedroom versus your kitchen or your office. So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh, I wish I could take you there. So it is my bedroom. And we did have help with a decorator who created a plan and then we executed it. And I just love it because it has that romantic feeling, and we really try to keep it that way. Like there's no TV, and it's like soft and there's chairs and, it's a really beautiful sacred space. And I also have room darkening shades because I just love to like feel like all kind of cocoony, in there. So yeah, I love it. And I also love my office as well and my chaise lounge back there. And I definitely will get, when I'm working with clients, sometimes I go back over there. And so that to me, like is like, I am so not corporate. I'm not going to sit in a chair on a desk all day. I'm going to sit on the couch.
I love it. I love it. And that is so in alignment with you and about what you want out of your life. And so this is so great to create those things. That's why I always like to share like kind of that peek into people's personal space and how they create it and what it looks like to have that. So I want to just thank you so much for being on the show and just sharing your journey and just your vulnerability and just the excitement about what you're doing and what you're up to. And I just want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This was so great. I'm so happy to have you as a squad member and have you on the show. And I'm very excited.
Awesome. So good. Well, to our listeners, first of all, again, definitely grab the 12 commandments. We will have all the information in the show notes. That's going to be the gfr.life/12C for the 12 commandments. Again, that will all be in the show notes. I also have my free gift in there as well, which is resetyourpowergift.com. It's so important. Like, what are those moves to stand in your power? So we've got lots of gifts for you there. And we just want to thank you so much because, the most valuable asset that we have is our time. And we so appreciate that you're investing it with us and that you're here, spending the time. And no matter what platform that you're listening on, put into the comments, what are some questions you had? What was an aha? When you download the commandments, what's your favorite one? What are you using? And tag both Lisa and I in that because we do want to hear from you. We want to hear, how you're using that and how this really impacted your life for the better. And, one of the things that, we're all learning in the podcast world that, it's so important to subscribe and to rate and review because that's how people find us. That's how we really spread all the goodness and positivity and ways for us to stand in our power. So that's your part that you could do today. We'd love to hear, what were the takeaways for you and how that impacted you. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for being here. Until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. See ya.